Carl Jung reveals the 18 signs you're entering the most powerful phase of your life. What if everything that seems to be falling apart right now is not punishment, but initiation? What if the confusion, the strange dreams, the sudden loss of interest in old goals are not failures of will, but signals that your soul is stepping forward to lead? Have you ever felt like life was falling apart only to discover something deeper was waking up inside? Comment 1. If you've ever gone through a time where confusion led to clarity. Comment 2. If you're still searching for meaning in the mess. Look closely at what's changing. This guide distills 18 unmistakable signs that your soul is evolving. You'll see why feeling unmotivated can be holy, why losing some relationships is merciful. Sign 1. The cracking of the ego. A call from within. When your beliefs wobble and your old motivations feel hollow, you're not failing. You're crossing a threshold. In Jungian terms, the ego, the center of conscious identity, roles, preferences, stories, wounds, begins to crack, so the self can rise. This isn't mere insecurity or instability. It's the death of the false you. Depth psychology reframes what many mislabel as depression, burnout, or a midlife crisis as an inward shift of energy. The unconscious knocks through vivid dreams, sudden intuitions, strange synchronicities, and a magnetic pull toward material that touches something deep. The ego resists. The soul uprises. Individuation starts the moment you recognize the ego's limits and sense an essence beyond the persona. This sacred wounding hurts because it dissolves the illusion of control, but it's the hero's disturbance that initiates you. Sit with the seeming collapse. In the ashes of the old, the self takes the lead. Sign 2. The inner death, when the soul prepares for rebirth. You may feel empty, numb, or confused, as if the scaffolding of your life is dissolving. Jung called this psychic death, the necessary dissolution of outdated structures, so the self can be reborn. It can mimic depression, yet it's a meaningful withdrawal of libido, psychic energy, from what no longer serves truth. Alchemically, this is nigredo, the blackening that precedes new growth. Parts of the old personality stop cooperating. You cannot fake it in work beliefs or relationships. The self senses what's coming. The ego does not, hence the terror in status-driven cultures. Reassure yourself, detachment and loss of passion often signal inner reorganization. Like a caterpillar's cocoon forms must melt before wings appear. Surrender accelerates rebirth. Numbing delays it. Stripped to essence, you end the performance and find freedom. This inner death clears the soil. Something truer is already stirring. Sign 3. The uprising of the unconscious. When hidden forces begin to guide you. The unconscious isn't chaos. It's a reservoir of potential archetypes and unlived truths. It begins arriving as vivid dreams, repeating numbers, uncanny alignments, signals that something larger than ego is at work. Jung's compensation principle says the unconscious balances what consciousness lacks. Relentless rationality is met by passion. People-pleasing by rebellion. Feeling precedes understanding, sudden attractions to symbols, colors, or people mark intuition, piercing logic. Transformation demands dialogue between consciousness and unconsciousness. Surrender the self's domain instead of ego control. Both personal material and collective archetypes. The hero, mother, shadow. Wise old man, awaken new roles in you. Protector, creator, truth teller. Synchronicity. Meaningful coincidence multiplies when you're receptive, conveying guidance and companionship. Practice journal dreams. Notice patterns, sit with images. As old frameworks break, a wiser inner structure forms. That inexplicable pull. It's the self reorganizing your life from the inside out. Sign 4. The emergence of the shadow. When the darkness demands to be seen, no coming to consciousness without pain. The shadow. Your repressed or denied traits surfaces anger, envy, fear, manipulation, lust, selfishness. The ego deemed them inconvenient, so it projected them onto others. Crisis, heartbreak, or spiritual awakening draws the shadow up. Expect turbulence, reactivity, defensiveness, shame, identity wobble. Choose curiosity over rejection. Shadow material reveals where your good person identity overextended or neglected itself. Avoidance keeps the shadow running your life through passive aggression, self-sabotage, and control. Integration means making the unconscious conscious. The false self yields to the true. Use irritation as a mirror. What part of me is this reflecting? Many retreat here. Staying dissolves fear of yourself. The darkness becomes teacher. Enlightenment. Jung said is not about imagining figures of light, but making the darkness conscious. Sign 5. Inner conflict intensifies the soul, begins its purification. Your psyche becomes a battleground of opposites. Ego versus self-persona versus shadow consciousness versus unconsciousness. You feel compassion and resentment, longing for solitude, and craving connection often in the same hour. Jung taught that the tension of opposites is not fatal, it's fertile. Holding it without premature collapse is the work. Enter enantiodromia, push to extremes energies, flip into their opposites, a sign the psyche is moving and purifying. This conflict flushes illusions about success, love, and identity. Exhaustion tears and doubt are common. Breakdown often precedes coherence. Moral conflict intensifies. You're pressured into stillness and honesty as the soul's fire burns what's false. Individuation asks you to endure guilt, regret, desire, and rage without bypassing. Seen, named, and felt, these energies harmonize. The storm outside is loud. The self inside whispers, "This is how you are remade." Are you in the thick of an inner storm right now, pulled in opposite directions by old patterns and new truths? Comment 1. If you're currently holding that tension and trying not to collapse. Comment 2. If you've been through it and come out clearer on the other side. Sign 6. Strange dreams. The soul speaks through symbols. During destabilization, the unconscious speaks in images. Dreams become direct expressions of the soul. Archetypal scenes arrive: floods, collapsing houses, wild animals, death and rebirth, unfamiliar landscapes. A collapsing house often signals the old self breaking. Getting lost in a forest marks descent into the unknown psyche. Snakes, wolves, or dragons carry instinct and shadow power. A child, wise elder, or wounded figure embodies parts needing reintegration. Autonomous complexes may appear as powerful dream figures. Use amplification. Connect symbols to myth culture, your personal story, and universal archetypes. Avoid simplistic, "this means that." Ignored waking truths grow louder at night. Big dreams feel numinous and initiate turning points. Practice. Keep a dream journal. Capture images and emotions, track recurring motifs. Dreams are maps. Read them, and you won't feel lost. Sign 7. Withdrawing from the crowd. The demand for sacred solitude. You lose taste for small talk, noisy rooms, and performative circles. This isn't arrogance. It's sacred separation, so you can hear within. Individuation requires stepping out of the collective mold the ego longs to belong. The soul longs to become. Others may misread your shift as withdrawal or depression. Your priority is inner reality. Incubate in nature, journaling, meditation. Silence rituals that carry you home. Discern true connection from conditional acceptance. Release validation seeking and anchor in alignment. Courage means staying alone long enough to reclaim psychic territory. Over time, energy condenses into quiet authority. You stop fearing aloneness. Solitude nourishes. Life becomes presence-oriented, fewer words, deeper roots. You're not abandoning the world. You're tuning your instrument so you can play the right music in it. Sign 8. Feeling unmotivated. Meaning is being rewritten. Motivation for old goals collapses. You ask, what's the point? Jung would call this a sacred pause, not failure. The psyche withdraws energy from identities and values that block individuation. You're in liminality between the ego-driven past and the emerging self. Jobs, relationships, and goals are reevaluated. Unraveling becomes reorientation toward authenticity over expectation. Purpose arises from alignment, not ambition. Until direction is true, the psyche withholds fuel. Forcing motivation deepens the split. What helps? Patience, reflection, and trust. Beneath the surface, the unconscious revisits beliefs and wounds, while archetypal energies stir. Follow breadcrumbs, simplify, create, rest, touch nature. These are not distractions, they are calibration. The sign you're shifting pressure yields to inner truth. Dormancy is gestation. You move from force to resonance. Sign 9. Rejecting the old definition of success. The soul seeks depth over status. External achievements and applause feel strangely hollow. You may blush at your old chasing. Persona. The early life performance of grades, promotions, and presentation built a mask at spiritual cost. Awakening can feel like betrayal of family or culture, yet it liberates deeper questions. What if success equals truth, not more? Am I winning a game I don't care to play? This dissolution is vital. Borrowed success blocks calling. You start resisting empty ambition, performance, and status, valuing authenticity over appearance. The risk of the midlife crisis is to excel at a life never truly yours. New values emerge, aligning over competing, being real over being admired, peace over envy, presence over quantity. You admire grounded, sincere aliveness. You ask, who am I, when unseen? What is worth suffering for? You stop chasing success to be someone. You seek depth to be yourself. Sign 10. Childhood memories. Return the soul's search for the original self. Sense places textures from childhood resurface as the psyche reaches back toward your preconditioned essence. This is not regression. It's restoration. Remembering the original blueprint that existed before the mask. The divine child archetype brings both light and wounds. Rejection, humiliation, abandonment, fear. These wounds are portals showing where you fragmented to gain acceptance. Follow the clues: old games, forgotten dreams, spontaneous joys. The aim isn't cold analysis, but feeling and honoring, reviving what was silenced. As you reconnect, life grows simpler and clearer. Present struggles reveal how far you drifted from the original self. Practice play for its own sake. Create without outcome. Move your body, speak emotional truth. Healing here is remembrance. You evolve by becoming who you were beneath the forgetting. Sign 11. Feeling connected to something greater when the soul tastes the numinous. A visceral knowing arises. Life is meaningful, and you are held. This is the numinous, a sacred, awe-filled energy beyond doctrine. Synchronicities intensify. Solitude and nature bring peace. The self begins to guide. You shift from fragment to whole, feeling your healing woven into others' well-being. Purpose becomes soul-centered service. Relationship to mystery softens, less control, more trust. Less certainty, more reverence. Psychology meets grounded spirituality. No bypassing more aliveness. You participate in a larger pattern without demanding full answers. The sign is quiet, but unmistakable meaning is experienced, not chased. Control gives way to collaboration with what is greater. You don't abandon the rational. You let it sit beside wonder. Sign 12. You begin to lose your fear of suffering. Pain becomes a portal. Pain persists, but your fear of it loosens. You meet suffering with presence, curiosity, and respect. Jung's axiom holds no consciousness without pain. You stop running numbing or performing and instead hold the tension of opposites, staying with discomfort long enough to learn. Heartbreak exposes illusions about love. Failure unmasks ego. Betrayal teaches boundaries. Anxiety signals misalignment. Repressed suffering ferments into neurosis. Addiction projection compulsion. Emotional literacy grows. Sadness asks for surrender. Anger for protection. Fear for preparation. Practice grief rituals. Honor anger safely, have the hard conversation, seek depth over the happiness chase. An unshakable softness emerges, strength rooted in contact with darkness. Wounds become wisdom. Wholeness endures what image cannot. Sign 13. An irresistible creative urge emerges. The soul demands expression. Creation stops being optional decoration and becomes necessity. The self is seeking embodiment. Write dance design, build. Heal, teach, change your path. Jung's active imagination turns images and feelings into form, accelerating integration. Ego doubts, am I good enough? Still murmur. But the soul values truth over applause. Expression feels like transmitting a message kept inside for years. You recognize and revere authentic creation in others. It deepens human connection. Remember, everyone creates, if not art, then a life, a voice, a way of loving. Your offering becomes human healing and real. This is not branding, it's breath. The sign is clear, you need to express your inner world to be whole. Sign 14. Old relationships naturally fall away, no longer aligned with your frequency. As values and creativity shift, relationships recalibrate. Some dissolve without drama. New psychological energy changes social resonance. Dissonance reveals interchange. You notice disconnection, rising intolerance for old dynamics, a felt cage. In the ego era, you tolerated toxicity and flimsy boundaries to secure approval. Now your nervous system refuses self-betrayal. The cost of pretending is too high. Truth-aligned ties deepen. Illusion-based ties fade. There is grief and relief. Remaining relationships become honest and purposeful. Small talk dies. Soul talk rises. Solitude becomes sovereignty. Connection to self precedes attracting kindred truths. Some will resist or accuse. You can honor change without abandoning compassion. The sign alignment over obligation, boundaries honored, and visibility to the right people increases. Have you had to let go of relationships that no longer felt aligned with who you're becoming? Comment 1. If you've walked away from someone you once loved to protect your truth. Comment 2. If you're still figuring out who belongs in your next chapter. Sign 15. You begin to accept your imperfection. Wholeness over image. Maturity arrives as you embrace imperfection. Individuation favors wholeness over flawlessness. Persona strong. Good, successful, put together grow too tight. Compassion replaces judgment. With shadow integration, flaws become parts needing care, not enemies to exile. You stop performing your wounds and start tending them. New responses form failure, learning, insecurity, observation, shame, curiosity, triggers, inner inquiry. Relationally, You reveal your real self and ask for help. The right people move closer. You are not aiming for sainthood, but integration, carrying contradictions without splitting. A calm, rooted power emerges. The sign you choose wholeness over perfection and stop living to impress. Authenticity replaces the exhausting chase for validation. Sign 16. An unstoppable creative longing returns. Create from soul, not for approval. The creative current intensifies. Participation through creation becomes necessary for sanity. Creativity is universal, an organ of wholeness through which self-energy seeks form, movement, and visibility. This soul pull can disrupt routines, jobs, even relationships that confine imagination. You fall in love with process flow over outcome, honesty over polish. Careers projects and voice shift from fame-seeking to obedience to soul. Paradoxically, this alignment prevents burnout. Expression clarifies, processes trauma, and generates joy. What once felt like fragmentation becomes fuel for art, mission, and presence. The sign could not be plainer. You can't suppress the fire. You create to connect, and to be real, to bring what only you can bring. Sign 17. You begin to live your truth, no matter the consequences. Truth stops being an idea and becomes a practice. You embody alignment in choices, relationships, work, and voice. People-pleasing ends. You decline misaligned opportunities. You speak without combativeness, but with clarity. The cost may include rejection or loss of borrowed identity, but the liberation is worth it. The collective prefers conformity. The awakened self cannot return to sleep. Validation dependence fades as you reference yourself internally. Your presence grows magnetic. Your yes and no carry weight. You become a mirror for others' truth. Life reorganizes around authenticity, resonant ties, and opportunities appear as non-matches fall away. The sign you no longer negotiate with your soul. You honor truth regardless of cost. Individuation takes flesh. Sign 18. Inner peace. No longer depends on outer circumstances. The self becomes the center. Integration culminates in a homecoming, fragmented parts cohere around the self, an identity beyond role and persona. Peace is no longer passive or escapist. It's a stable "I am okay" in the midst of weather. Emotional roller coasters slow. Worth decouples from outcomes and approval. Intuition and boundaries are trusted. Storms still pass, but your anchor holds. Spaciousness opens you feel without drowning. Witness thoughts respond rather than react. Hold conflict consciously. Your rhythm shifts, nourishing solitude. Fewer words with more presence. Slower precision love from overflow. The internal compass is steady despite external pull. This is not an ending but a sovereign beginning. Peace, clarity, strength, purpose, and quiet joy rooted in wholeness. Do not resist these signs. They mark breakthrough, not breakdown. Keep evolving courageously, consciously, and whole. You didn't just read 18 isolated symptoms. You traced a single archetypal arc, the psyche's migration from persona to self. In Jung's language, your life is not collapsing. The opposites inside you are reconciling light with shadow instinct, with spirit, solitude with service. What looked like failure, ego-cracking inner death, lost motivation reveals itself as individuation, the soul's centripetal pull, gathering scattered parts into a living wholeness. The unconscious is not your enemy. It is your unlived life knocking at the door with dreams, synchronicities, and the numinous. Pain no longer masquerades as punishment. It becomes pedagogy. Creativity ceases to be performance. It becomes participation in the deeper order moving through you. Hold the central paradox. You are both smaller than you imagined, not the sun around which every star must turn, and vastly larger than you feared a participant in a meaning that extends beyond your biography. Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The moment you name these signs, fate loosens and freedom begins. The self-quiet, steady, unhurried reroutes your identity beyond applause or outcome. From here, boundaries feel natural, truth becomes non-negotiable, and peace is not borrowed from circumstances, but generated from center. This is the hinge stop resisting the initiations, and they become the very doors you walk through. What you once called breakdown was always your beginning. Here's the affirmation you can carry forward. I am not my persona. I am a self in process. I am not my past. I am a present becoming. When the old scaffolding trembles, you now recognize the pattern signs of a larger wholeness assembling your life from within. You know how to meet them curiously, honestly, and with the courage to feel. If you need a compass for the next steps, let it be simple and embodied. Name the sign. This is ego cracking. This is negredo. This is the shadow asking to be seen. Language reduces panic and invites presence. Create dialogue. Journal dreams, practice active imagination, sit with symbols that visit you. Ask, what do you need me to know? Then listen, longer than is comfortable. Keep the tension. Do not rush to premature harmony. Paradox is a kiln. Let it bake you into coherence. Choose alignment over appearance. Decline the opportunity that cost your soul. Say yes where your body rests and your heart brightens. Serve from overflow. Your individuation is not a retreat from the world, but a gift to it. Wholeness is contagious. If a single line from Jung could bless this chapter, let it be this. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Becoming is not a slogan. It is a practice, daily, imperfect, luminous at the edges. On days when fear returns, touch the map again. The 18 signs aren't hurdles to clear, but thresholds to cross each one, validating that your life is not random, not late, not lost. Stand where you are. Breathe. Let the self take the center. When the next synchronicity arrives, when the dream speaks, when the truth costs you something, answer. Your most powerful phase is not a someday. It is an orientation. It is a way of walking. And you are already on the path. This isn't just a concept. It's your lived reality unfolding moment by moment. Comment 1 if you feel yourself stepping into this next phase with courage. Comment 2 if this reflection helped you see your path more clearly.